Hello everyone, Namaste. My name is Ashwini. Welcome to another episode of Growth Fit interview series brought to you by CustomFit.ai. CustomFit.ai enable marketers and sales professionals to customize their website content without code changes to showcase the right value proposition. It's super simple, just three steps. Install the CustomFit Chrome extension, go to your website, customize the content, and generate the shareable links. Also, you can track the visits. So, we have Brian Lau with us again. I am so excited, and it's today's session is going to be all about demand generation. So, it's a lot to learn from him, I'm sure. So, thanks, Brian, for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's great to be back.
Yeah. So, Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year.
Um, So last session we talked about marketing, how you started, your tips and tricks. So this session I want to discuss completely about demand generation. It has been your major area of work. So I want to understand a few things from you, like what does your marketing funnel look like? Would you like to emphasize on few points or activities, particularly for SaaS marketers, that you feel to concentrate on?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, when I think about a marketing funnel and how to build one out, I think there's a couple key attributes that need to be included within it to make sure that we are successful with it. So the first one is that the defining attributes of each stage and how a prospect moves through them should be as clear as possible and as well defined as possible so that you remove as much objectivity through the process as possible. So for example, the way I typically end up building that out is if you work from the bottom up, closed one I think is pretty clear for everyone. You have
Mhm.
opportunity stage, which actually can be one of the most confusing ones, is when you actually want to count something as being part of your pipeline. You typically go through some level of methodology around Bant or Medic, or there's many different versions of this, but it typically boils down to some level of, is this the right person? Do they actually have a need? And are they going to move forward? So you want some level of qualification around that to define your opportunity. And then above that, it gets a bit more simple. Typically, we've defined something like an SQL as being a demo actually set. An S, um, so demo set. Above that, you typically have something around an SEL, which would be like sales engaged lead, focused on when a discovery call is scheduled. And then above that, you'd actually want to track the prospects that are starting to be worked by your sales team. Typically call those sales accepted leads. And then above that, you typically have some level of automation qualified leads. It's sometimes referred to as marketing qualified leads. I prefer to use the term automation qualified leads to diverge it from the actual marketing team and actually take more of a comprehensive focus as a sales and marketing team to focus around what are the ones that automation is telling us that we should focus on first. So at a high level, that's kind of what my marketing funnel looks like. I will add that there's one stage above automation qualified lead, which should typically be an inquiry, which is just someone does something. It could be my grandma downloading a white paper. It doesn't matter who they are. It's just a way of tracking that there's something happen at the top of the funnel. And really is, if anyone's picked up on the funnel I just described is very much close to what you would describe as a um, waterfall funnel as defined by, I think it was Serious Decisions that first came out with that framework.
Nice. So, from your side, any efforts happen regarding lead nurturing, maybe lead nurturing strategies on website itself?
Yeah. So one of the things that we love to do, just across lead nurturing in general, is I love to take the perspective of moving away from the marketing funnel necessarily for lead nurturing and focus more on your buyer's journey. So we just walked through what the marketing funnel looks like. When I think about the buyer's journey, it's less about the specific points that we track internally and more about the journey that the individual prospect takes. So you'd want to start from a perspective that they know nothing about your company and they know nothing about the problem that they might be facing. There's awareness of the problem. There's
Mm-hmm.
interest finding a solution for it. And then there's a decision stage when they're actually making a decision around. So that at a high level is the framework I like to use when you think about lead nurturing. When you think about lead nurturing, oftentimes people tend to focus it specifically on like email campaigns when you've got someone's name and you want to move them to a further stage down the funnel. The reason I like to look at this buyer's journey from the prospect standpoint is your lead nurturing can really happen at any given point, right? You can go as far up to the top of the funnel as awareness, trying to move someone from unaware to aware. For example, I think this podcast right now, on podcasts aren't always the most easy campaign to understand the ROI from, but you would still do them because it's a way for you to generate awareness at the top of the funnel. And you see a lot of great companies doing marketing, incorporating a podcast into the marketing specifically for awareness because of this reason. In terms of driving it through your website, the the challenge you have with your website overall is that you build one website and you expect it to resonate with every single one of your buyers. And especially as companies have multiple products and multiple different buyer personas, the idea of having one website for everyone just doesn't make sense. It's more of like a limiting framework because of the technical abilities that we've always had historically, that new technology that allows us to now customize a website really is what should become the de facto standard when you think about how to build out your buyer's journey as a marketer.
Great one, like maybe a different perspective altogether. Uh, so if you're working for a website and the task is to drive that traffic to that particular website, so what is your major source of website traffic? Like, how do you make it work? How do you prioritize things? How do you strategize things to make all that traffic or all that volume of people come and visit the website?
Yeah, I think at a high level you can make a distinction between earned media and paid media to your website. And
Mhm.
one of the first areas you want to focus on is earned, specifically with a strategy around search engine optimization. It is a the most difficult channel to build, but it is also the most defensible and the one that's probably going to provide the highest ROI over the long term for your business. So I always recommend investing heavily in that from the start to get your business off the ground, up and running. And you may not necessarily see too much from it in the first couple months, but in the long run, once you stick with it, it really can pay dividends. That doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity for some paid advertising as well. But just keep in mind that, when you start to try and differentiate your business through paid media, there's only so much you can do through differing strategy that you ultimately end up competing on how much dollars you spend, which again goes back to why you want to focus on as much earned media as possible, as it does provide an opportunity for better ROI long term.
So now, if now inbound part is worked out for that particular website, and according to a survey, website conversion rates are 2% on an average. So which is considered as a good number, like which is again like 2% is also a good number. But if it is poor, like some website it comes out to be 0.11%, 0.22%. So, what is your methodology to increase conversion rate? Do you take any efforts to lift it up? And according to you, what are the biggest hurdles for the visitors to convert from the website?
Yeah, I think if you're struggling with a website that's converting poorly, one of the first areas you want to understand is just how is the different traffic to your website converting? Is it a specific channel that's drawing that down? Are you bringing the wrong visitors to your website in the first place? So there's a number of tools out there that do allow you to help get a better understanding of who's coming to your website in the first place, and that's a great place to start to understand how
Mhm.
they're converting. The second part of that is when you want to increase the conversion rate of them, it's great to start building out different audiences and different segments of your visitors to your site and then creating more compelling information to them. So, for example, you often see on B2B sites, there's always this push to complete another form or book another demo. Well, most
Mhm.
likely, most likely the largest audience coming to your website isn't necessarily ready for that, right? They're more likely
Mhm.
it's higher up in the funnel, just driving awareness. but you want to drive some level of engagement, but you don't necessarily need to push towards a lead capture as they might be afraid a salesperson follows up or they're just not ready for a demo. So when you start to look at that information, you get to bet a lot better understanding of how you can adjust the content on your website to make sure that people are actually converting properly through your funnel.
So, if I understand it clearly, suppose you have to have some customer or sorry, visitor engagement, and suppose you know well, what visitor is doing on the website, how he or she is, that particular person is browsing your website, what he or she has visited till now, and accordingly, if you have dynamic landing pages or if do you feel that dynamic and personalized website landing pages which showcases relevant content to for not only for the particular segment of the audience but to for the each and every visitor at each and every stage can help in nurturing those needs through the website itself?
100%. And the thing to keep in mind is that website is probably one of the strongest parts of your overall funnel and one of your most important channels. So you absolutely want to convert it. But keep in mind that on top of that, you also want to line the rest of your channels around that same content and that same audience segment so that your website personalization isn't just one part of your overall mix that's getting personalization. You want to make sure that the end buyer is then experiencing that same message across all the channels that they interact with your business on. And that's one of the more difficult challenges within marketing. But obviously, starting with your website, getting it to have dynamic landing pages and targeted specifically to your buyers is one of the first places you want to start.
Makes sense. So, according to you, I'm again coming to the inbound part. So, according to you, what are the three components very important in case of inbound marketing?
Yeah, understand your buyer persona's pain points and really where they are coming from, and in particular, what other resources are they looking at? It's very easy to go down a specific path of assuming who your buyer personas are without fully walking their footsteps. It's, I'm in a market where I'm almost selling to myself to a certain extent, so it's kind of easy for me because the Flockchase solution is being sold to sales and marketing leaders. So I have a really good understanding of understanding the buyer persona. But if I'm selling into a different market where I'm less familiar with it, one of the first things you have to do if you're building out an inbound marketing strategy is you really almost have to learn a second job and understand what your buyers are actually trying to achieve so that you can do your job.
I think I can totally relate because Custom Fit is also a sales and marketing solution. So maybe. So in this case, can you recommend a strategy for keyword research, a step-by-step methodology that maybe you follow or you have followed with your this huge experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a great place to start with keyword research tools. There's plenty of them out there. They'll give you the same information that your competitors are most likely receiving as well. And it's a great place to start. Where you want to go above and beyond, just going back to our earlier conversation, is you really again want to understand what your buyer personas are doing. There's a couple different ways
Mhm.
that you can do that as an individual. So if you use some sort of revenue intelligence tool, you can listen to Gong calls or Chorus AI calls and actually hear what your prospects are saying when they're talking with your sales team. And that's a great way to just understand what terminology they're using that could then influence your own keyword research. There's also different ways where you can combine a lot of the information that's coming from those calls into more easily digestible kind of knowledge sharing platform internally that can help you understand that information. So that's the second part of it. Um, but yeah, I think those would be the two main areas if you're building out a keyword research strategy that I'd start, with SEMrush or another keyword research tool, but particularly focus on your own first party research through your sales team.
And if I talk about not only the keyword research but content marketing also. So it's a crucial part in demand generation. So do you suggest any companies, blogs that are those are having good content marketing strategies whom a fellow marketer can go and subscribe to?
Yeah, I'm always a fan of the content that Drift produces. Um, Actually,
Okay.
their CEO has a weekly newsletter as well that
Mm-hmm.
comes directly from him, David Cancel. I highly recommend that. I've been subscribed to it for years and love it. I think Webflow does a really good job with content marketing. Um, there's a couple other companies that just from their social media presence, I think they do a great job with their content marketing. Gong is one of them. Metadata IO is one of them as well. So those are some of my favorite out there right now for following content marketing strategies.
That's a really nice one. So we will note it down and try to, if you can share them with us, all the uh, maybe all the names. So we will introduce that in our blog.
Awesome.
So as a head of demand generation, I think you have been managing many teams till now. So what is that most challenging aspect of managing a team that you feel?
Ooh, most challenging aspect of managing a team. The most challenging and most rewarding, I would say. Well, I guess as a manager, what I try to solve for is identifying what the business needs and aligning that towards an individual's own passion for solving. As a manager, I never want to be in a position where I'm having to constantly drive someone's focus and initiative around a specific area. What I
Hmm.
want to do through the hiring process is identify someone whose own individual passions align with what the business needs, and that's working through with the business for a few years or whatever's appropriate. They then achieve their own goals, right? So that is very challenging to find that alignment. I think it's more of like a magical moment that you try to find for your team is to make sure that when someone wakes up in the morning, their feet touch the floor, they're excited to go do what they do because they want to do it. I don't want to
Hmm.
end up in a scenario where as a manager, I'm asking someone to do something that they don't feel is like what gets them excited in the morning. What's great about that is like when you start to build a team with that methodology, you get a team that almost runs itself, right? And
Yeah.
you get a team where people are fulfilled and are excited to come to work. And it just creates a magical moment that as a manager, you really try to strive for.
I think more than skills, what matters is the attitude with which somebody is coming and trying to do his or her work and start and end up with the goals.
Yep, 100%.
So because of the time, maybe I have to go for the ending note. But would you like to share your mantra of demand generation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My mantra of demand generation. When I think about my mantra for demand generation, I I think it's done properly with a blend of art and science. And that's the
Hmm.
specific thing that interests me the most about marketing and demand generation is you can do it well many different ways. And there's so many different practitioners out there that are interesting to watch who bring their own kind of artistic skill set to demand generation. But at the same time, we're such a very numbers driven role that we have to focus on
Hmm.
pipeline, right? So you're taking this very objective definition of some pipeline figure and getting to it in a more artistic manner. And I think that's just so cool to blend both sides of those and try and find where they come together and how they align to get to that number that drives business, drives growth in your business.
Maybe maybe with science, psychology of the visitor, psychology of your target persona is also important to consider. As you mentioned, that art is involved in this thing, and also the science, as we it's a number game.
100%. Yep.
Thanks, Brian. So, with this thing, I would like to end up this session, but we will meet right away with the new episode. Thanks a lot, Brian, and it was really nice meeting you again.
Yep, great to spend time with you again, and thank you for having me.